Well, welcome to the Shepherd Hearted Leader podcast, where we explore topics that help strengthen your ability to care for those under your leadership. Now, today I'm really excited to have Jordy and Angie Savageau on the podcast. They are successful real estate agents in the North Metro Twin Cities of Minnesota, and they have such a great story. I am excited for you to hear about it, how they have learned to trust God in the hard times. And so, Jordy and Angie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Well, today I want to talk about your story, and you actually shared your story in a message at Emmanuel called Money Talks, and it was just a little brief testimony, and I thought, first of all, we can have our listeners watch that story, and then we'll dive in to the backstory. How's that?
That sounds great.
Sounds great. Hi, I'm Jordan. This is my wife, Angie. We've been going to Emmanuel for about 13 years. And this is kind of our giving story.
Early on when we were starting to tithe, money was really tight, and Jordan had just done a job, and he was supposed to get paid $500, and somebody ended up paying him $50 instead. And so we were at church, we were getting ready to head into the service, and I intentionally left the checkbook in the car because I did not want to tithe. And the tithe was coming, or the offering plate was coming around, and Jordan leaned over to me and asked me, "Do you have the checkbook?" And I had said, "No, I left it in the car." And at that moment, he whipped out the $50 out of his pocket and said, "You need to put this in the offering plate. And if $50 is all we have right now, we're in a heck of a whole lot of hurt anyways." And I remember the offering plate coming by and just being like, "Oh my gosh, can I make change in the offering plate?" Because we literally had no money. And so I did it. I put it in the plate.
And it was really amazing. Over the next couple of weeks, God just returned it to us 100-fold. And it was just amazing to see His provisions for us. For just that little bit of faithfulness that we gave Him, He just multiplied it so many times. So obviously, it's not always easy. There is challenges along the way, and has been for us. You know, when the housing crisis came, we were greatly affected. We lost our home, had to start over.
We basically moved into this very modest townhouse, and I remember we were trying to pay for things. God just kept making provisions. Throughout the whole process. We couldn't afford a kitchen sink quite yet, and so I was doing dishes in the bathtub, and I heard the Lord say to me that He was going to restore the years the locusts had eaten. And I remember kind of laughing, going, "Oh my gosh, Lord, I'm doing dishes in a bathtub. I just left this beautiful home, and how are you ever going to do that?"
You know, you still have to be faithful even in those times where things aren't going right. And now I just look at the reset that happened in our life at that time. This is exactly where God wanted us. It's exactly where He wanted our kids. He knew all along where we needed to be. And I don't question anything that happened at that time. Even working through it, becoming that much stronger in my faith and in my tithe.
If there's one thing that I would challenge you guys with, is to just completely trust the Lord with your finances. Obviously, you got to be a good steward, and that includes tithing. And I would really encourage you, if you're not tithing right now, that you start tithing. He is so faithful. I promise you, He will show up in the most craziest ways, and you got to just trust Him. Take that leap.
Wow, so amazing. Thank you guys for sharing your story and being so vulnerable. We would just love to hear a little bit more of the backstory. Now, I've known you both for decades. I think we knew each other before you guys were married, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's been decades.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so I've had a front row seat to watch how God has just worked in your lives in such a profound way. So let's let the listeners know a little bit more about you. Tell us about your family and then how you came to know the Lord.
Yeah, so Jordan and I have been married since June of 1994. We have 3 sons, and now we have 3 daughter-in-laws. We've got 7 grandkids. We have a busy life with all those kids.
Yep. And So we are in business together, and we've always done a lot together that way. We, just to kind of go back and talk about how this all started from the video. We got married, and we kind of always struggled with our finances. We weren't always good with the budget. We struggled with credit card debt. We really weren't really good stewards of our money.
Well, let me jump in real quick too. Tell our listeners, how did you guys come to the Lord? Where did your faith story enter? Were you
for me, a year and a half after we got married, I actually ended up coming to Emmanuel to a Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames performance, and that was the night that I surrendered my life to Jesus. And then the next night, I dragged a bunch of friends. But Jordan, you can go ahead.
I grew up in a Christian home. We actually went to Fridley Assembly across the street. Started going to Fridley Assembly in 9th grade. So I've been around this church for a really, really long time. And then we moved away for a while and then came back. But I've always kind of considered this my home.
And so for those of you who are listening, Fridley Assembly of God was the name of Emmanuel back in, I think, before the 80s or sometime in the 80s, 60s, the 80s. Whatever. When the church moved out of Fridley to Spring Lake Park, the name changed. So, okay, so now let's jump back to where you were talking about the video, how the story started.
Yeah, we struggled with finances. We struggled with our money a lot early in our marriage. We didn't know how to manage money. We didn't know how to tithe. We weren't very good at any of it. We were probably very immature with money.
We had no tools.
Yeah, we didn't have any tools. And that continued until even through when I started the business in commercial construction and started making more money. It even struggled through then. Now we were tithing, but we were also putting a lot of money on credit cards and all that kind of stuff as well.
Living way beyond our means.
Yep.
Not just, whatever we wanted, just that instant gratification, just right away. Just got it.
Yep.
That included housing too.
And then that would bring us up to the 2009 crash where everything just shut off. And I had my best year the year before the crash.
So talk about what you were doing. You were a business owner, commercial.
Yep. Angie and I had a business together where I did commercial construction, and you become specialized in different things. And so what you would do is you'd go all over the country. I'm not going to name any names of companies, but you'd install a certain type of fixture, and you're good at it, so they would have you do it all over the country. So I was traveling a lot, and I was away from my family and kids. And at first, it wasn't bad.
And the projects were anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it would be,
But at first, it was fun because, like one of my first jobs, we got to go down by Miami, Florida, and Angie and the kids and the whole family went down there, and we were staying in the place on the beach. And
for 3 months.
I was working, and they were
homeschooling and hanging out.
How old were the kids at this time?
Let's see here. Ben was probably 4, and then 4, 8, and then 10.
So you're a young family, feeling successful, being able to travel, earn good living.
Yeah.
And then, eventually the kids get older and they have to start going to school, and then they're not coming with me, and sports and all the things that go along with that. And I found myself, certainly after the crash, I had about 5 months where I didn't have any jobs. The jobs just dried up. And in commercial, they just put everything on hold because they don't know what the future holds.
And what was that crash? It wasn't COVID. It was back in 2009.
Yeah, this is the housing crash. Where the housing market crashed, and there was just too much inventory, not enough buyers. And so the value of your home crashed.
And quickly.
And that affected the commercial
also,
real estate business.
Yeah, because people aren't spending money if they don't have it.
Yeah.
And commercial gets shut off first.
Yeah. And the other thing is that was affecting it was the subprime mortgages and the variable rate mortgages. So all of a sudden people had a fixed rate and then it would turn to variable. They would have an arm. So you'd all of a sudden go from, paying nothing in interest to 7-8% in interest, and payment would skyrocket.
Yep.
And, so yeah, it was an interesting time. But after 5 months of not working, I thought, well, we're either going to fold up shop or, we're going to have to cut our prices or something to get some work. And so I cut my prices, and work came, but I was working twice as hard for half as much, and I was gone from my family a lot. I was gone for about 5 months, we calculated. Only home for a couple days.
Yeah, gone for 5 months and only home for a couple days in the 5 months?
Maybe max of 5 days. Like he missed pretty much every holiday from May to September, with the exception of my birthday. He did come home for my birthday.
Mm-hmm. But that kind of became an issue too, just because things kind of fell apart doing that when I wasn't on the job. And it was just a lot of stress. And I remember coming home at that time and talking with Angie about what I felt that my priorities were way out of whack. And
I had been praying for him to have that revelation.
Yeah.
I was very happy when he came. He literally came down into the basement office, grabbed a piece of paper, sat down, and he wrote the order of what he was living, his business name, his, me, the kids, all the things of what was currently going on in his order of things, and then what he really wanted things to be: God, Angie, the kids, family, friends,
Mm-hmm.
And so you're home this whole time.
Yes.
And were you feeling like this is just the necessity of the season? Like we need provision, so it's okay that he's gone? I mean, you said you were praying for it.
Yeah, I was.
He would see it.
Yeah, I was praying that he would see that, that this needed to be, we needed to figure out something else, because it was really hard to be separated. And it would, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when we initially started the business, we tried to make a rule that, okay, I can only be gone 1 week a month.
Okay.
And that we blew right past that.
Yeah.
And we thought it was temporary, but I just felt at the time that I didn't see a real end. Mm-hmm. And that I had to be on these jobs, because otherwise they wouldn't flow.
Yeah, they weren't.
And that was kind of evidence when I came home for Angie's birthday.
Wow.
It just, everything kind of fell apart, and I felt like I'm going to feel this pressure all the time that I have to be there. I have to get all this stuff done, and it just wasn't working. And after a lot of prayer and making that list of what I wanted my priorities to be, I just didn't see another way to do it other than to leave the business.
Wow.
So we did that, and in that time we were losing our house, mm-hmm. and weren't able to make the payments, mm-hmm. and we were looking at high rents and
because we had lost everything, even gone through bankruptcy, they wouldn't even, apartment places wouldn't even rent to us, so we were just in a really bad way. But we did end up having a really generous relative who held a contract for deed for this very modest townhouse that we found on the market. That had been foreclosed. It was on the market.
It was in rough shape.
And only thing salvageable was a shower stall.
A lot of pipes were gone. A lot of water heater was gone.
No appliances.
Everything was trashed. No appliances.
And that's
stripped
what you're
out.
saying about your washing dishes in
mm-hmm.
the bathtub.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes, because we kept trying to, get money to, pay for. So here we are. We're still have access to the old house, and we're trying to get stuff done in this new place. And like, I'm selling furniture to pay for things. Like yesterday we had gone through our books, and one of the stories was that like I had sold a couch so we could buy carpet. Mm-hmm. Like, it was crazy. Mm-hmm. And like, we needed to, and prior to, washing the dishes, we had to buy a bathtub because there was no bathtub that was, and like, God had provided a bathtub for $180. I mean, we're just like the things. And then we needed tile to finish the bathroom. And I remember, this is crazy, but we went up to the counter from, I think it was Home Depot or Lowe's. Yeah, Home Depot. And we're like going up to the counter and trying to pay for the tile. And the tile is ringing up a penny a box.
Oh, wow.
And we just kept on. The guy who is the cashier is like, well, this obviously is not right. Let me get my manager. And the manager's over there trying to key stuff in, and a penny. Keying more stuff in, a penny.
Wow.
I mean, like, multiple times. And all of a sudden the guy's like, I do not know why, but you are supposed to buy this for 1 cent.
Wow.
A box.
So
and so it
we
was
bought it for
6 cents.
Oh my goodness, that's
All the
amazing.
tile
Yes.
in the
And at this
bathroom.
point, you guys are not charging, so you're trying to pay everything for cash, so liquidating even more.
Yeah, we had no ability to charge anything.
I remember when you were at your house before you bought this one, when you were doing a garage sale, and you're going, I had 2 sets of silverware, I need to get rid of one, and all that. Yeah. Wow. And so I felt like I had a front row seat watching what God was doing in you guys through this. And at what point did you have flashcards? I remember talking about that.
I started those kind of, right away. I mean, I was feeling just like we were dried up. We had no more resources. Like, we just had nothing. So I started writing, flashcards, and I would just put them everywhere just so that I could be, encouraged, but also be mindful of what was happening. So the funny thing is that the year prior, when Jordy had his best year, and we knew we had been charging, we had been doing all those things, like, we knew we were supposed to start, being disciplined, not using credit cards anymore. So we actually started, at that point, we had started doing the Dave Ramsey program, and we actually paid off a significant amount of debt. But the problem is, when you wait too long and you don't listen to that voice, when God's speaking to you and he's warning you, like, hey, trouble's on its way. If you keep going this way, you got to stop.
Your engine light's flashing.
And we were not listening, and it crumbled in on us. And I remember, like, there was one of the ones in here that I just remembered talking about, I got to look for it here real quick.
And these are cards she would put in her car. She would put in the bathroom
I can't remember
as
which one I
reminders.
had.
So some of them are water stained and from falling in the sink, I'm sure. But
it's just that sometimes things crumble in on you and you can't. It's too late. Yeah. And that's kind of what was happening. But we needed it to crumble in on us.
Mm-hmm.
So there, you were noticing things with your family. You're prioritizing your family. What happened after you stepped out of that business? How did that go for you, and where did you work? And
so we had done a job, and we weren't getting paid on it. It was one I'd spent months on, and they weren't paying us. And finally, eventually, they paid us. And of course, there were business debts and everything like that. So finally, I felt like I could leave the business and get out of it. And so I talked to my business partners and said, I'm going to step out of the business. And so after that, I just started doing carpentry locally. And that kind of set up the next 7 years as being, to me, the greatest 7 years of our life.
Yes, absolutely.
I was at home. I would start at 7 in the morning. I'd be done at 3:30 for my 8-hour day, sometimes a little bit more, but I would be home, and I didn't have to mow the grass. I didn't have to shovel the walk. I would come home and I would spend time with my family that I didn't have before. And Angie was waiting tables. 2 days a week, pretty much.
Yep, Thursdays and Saturdays.
Thursdays and Saturdays.
I remember that. And you were a great waitress and made a lot of money on tips. Everything you do turns to gold.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, it was, like I said, it was 7 years that we greatly needed.
We did.
And I was telling Angie, you know, sometimes God's provisions show up and they aren't what you think they're going to be.
No.
But he's faithful. And we were talking about, you know, sometimes, you know, he'll bless you financially or whatever, but in our case, we were blessed because we had to be torn down to the studs first and rebuilt. And I was saying that sometimes you're, you know, the step towards this goal isn't always a step that goes forward. Sometimes you have to step backwards first. But yeah, so anyway, we started over and had these great 7 years. A lot of that was, I credit to Dave Ramsey, as, you know, getting us to be on a budget, to live within our means, you know, not have credit cards, not have loans, and really learn a different way to do things. And even though I wasn't making a ton of money, I consider that to be one of my most prosperous times in my life.
Absolutely.
And so you were waitressing and you had this dream in the back of your heart and head going, I want to be a realtor. And I remember you saying, I know it's not time yet. It's not time yet. And talk about that. Talk about the dream. And
yeah, I just had that on my heart so much, and I just kept praying about it. And but every time I would pray about it, I would hear, be still, which was frustrating because I'm like, you know, when you have these dreams and these things that are churning inside you and these ideas, and you're like, and you feel like they're from the Lord, but you're like not moving on them and you're having to be still. It's so hard. But I remember like just kind of going back to that period of time of just feeling like our bones were dried up and just feeling like, you know, God, what do you want me to focus on here? Because I have these desires and these dreams. And I just felt like he was like, I want you to focus on your family. I want you to focus on homeschooling, and I want you to focus on living simply. And I had to, and I will tell you by nature, that is not me. It was very difficult. I mean, I love my family and I like focusing on my family, but homeschooling was a challenge because it was not easy for me. And, you know, being still and being, you know, content instead of, you know, running after something that I'm a very driven person. And so just trying to stay diligent in that. And as like I said, God, I kept praying about it, and I just kept hearing, be still. People would give me, you know, plaques and cards, and I'll never forget, I was praying about it, and I was like, Lord, like, you know, I really want to do this. Like, what is this? And it was gnawing at me. And I was driving down 94, and I look up, and there's this car hoisted up in the air with a mannequin in it. And there's a scripture verse on the side of the car. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Jordy, did you ever see that there's a scripture verse on the side of that car? So I quickly start Googling it on my phone, and I'm like, no way. It says, be still. And I just remember like, okay, Lord, I relent. I just like, if you're not in this, I don't want anything to do with it. Just take it out of my heart. And I kind of waited a little while longer, and probably was maybe a year later. I just was like, okay, Lord, it's still there, but if this is not you, I don't want anything to do with it. Just take it out of my heart. And I heard him say, it's time. And I was kind of like, oh my goodness, did I hear him say it's time? Like, then I started doubting myself, like, or doubting him, and if I'm hearing him correctly. And then, so then I gave him like, you know, 3 things to prove himself, which was silly, but also he's faithful that way. Like, he came through. And one of the biggest ones that I needed is I needed $3,000. And when I tell you, like, this season of our life, we were right to our paycheck. So for me to need $3,000, it was an impossible thing. And within 3 days, God made the provision. Oh, wow. And so I knew that it was time. And so then I started my schooling and went on to, doing real estate.
And real estate isn't always the easiest industry for people to get started
No.
in.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
What's the average I don't know if there's the average how many houses a realtor sells the first year.
Well, at the time, my broker had told us that it was the average real estate agent sells about 5 homes a year when they first start, and that would be a good year.
Yep. And then I remember you got Rookie of the Year. How many did you sell the first year?
48 houses.
48 houses when people were...
Yeah, it was crazy. God opened doors that only he could open. Like, literally, like, only way that he could open. He just kept working things out in ways that, still I think about it even today. It's amazing.
And now you two are back in business together. Talk about how that happened. So,
Well, I always laugh because I say that if I wanted to see my wife, I had to become a realtor because she worked very, very hard, and she was going on a lot of showings, and I was going with her.
Which was fun.
I was her protection at the beginning, but no, and we do enjoy each other a lot. We enjoy working together, and we work well together. And so I'm good at showing homes because of my construction background, and so I do a lot of the showings, and I'm able to contribute that way. And Angie does a lot of the negotiating, and of course she is a very much a people person. So all the initial contact stuff, that's her territory. But yeah, she.
But you're the real talent.
Yeah, right.
It's true.
Yeah. We all know that's not true, but anyway.
You're a good team. You're a good team.
Yep. So yeah, it has worked well for us, you got anything?
But the one thing that I would say, which I love the most about real estate, where real estate's great, and we can, you get to serve people in a way that you normally would never have these opportunities because you're in such an intimate situation. People are not always buying and selling homes because it's, good timing. Sometimes there's rough things that are happening. And even with our experience of having lost our house, and there are people we have had to help that are walking through that journey to try to encourage them, like, hey, this is not the end. This might just be the beginning of something way better than you ever dared, dreamed, or imagined. And that's what I would say with that journey part of it. It's just like it's been way bigger and way better than I could ever possibly dream or imagine. And I'm so grateful for the reset. I am so grateful that God, you need to share that thing we talked about today, about in the car, about when you were talking about the prosperity gospel.
Well, yeah, we were just talking, and it seems like in some Christian circles, it's like if you tithe and you are doing the right things, that God's going to give you prosperity and expand your lands and everything. And it's kind of like what I was talking about before. For us, the prosperity wasn't that. It was giving me peace. It was giving me those 7 years. And we talked about our life cycle kind of going up and down. But God has been the rock that has sustained us through everything. And that's, to me, the prosperity is having to be able to count on Him through all this stuff.
Yes.
And having it go up and down, and not necessarily being given something of value other than to tear me down and build me back up into something that's worth, that's worthwhile. And changing my heart and changing my behaviors and changing how I think about things. That was so invaluable. And I'm sure it'll happen again.
Life change. The Lord draws us close because He wants to know us and for us to know him. And so we go through those ebb and flow seasons in life where we get the opportunity to trust him more. You guys have such an amazing story. What are some of the things that you learned? So we talked a little bit about the cards. Is there anything that stood out to you, like, these are the things that the Lord taught me in that season?
Yes. That discipline from him is a good thing. And that is like one thing that I was going to say, like, he disciplines a child he loves. And we needed disciplining in our finances. Bad, desperately. Granted, part of it, we didn't really know what we were doing, but also, and we needed tools, but also, like, we were doing things. So like one thing I was, like, that talked about, just being like, when you suffer, and you suffer, like, for doing right, you can feel like, oh, I'm suffering because I'm doing right. But when you're suffering for doing wrong, you did this to yourself. Like, and that was kind of one of the things, like, God wasn't doing this to me. The devil wasn't doing this to me. I was doing it to myself by making poor financial choices. And these were the consequences of those choices. And so it's like, I had to really take a time to self-reflect of, boy, I've done this to myself. I mean, God, and there was Bible verses talking about cutting off, and I remember, and I don't remember the Bible verse, but I remember just like, God just cut off the opportunity to be able to use credit cards. He just cut anything that I could do to dig out myself from having to deal with the punishment or the consequence, whatever you want to say. It just was not, I was not going to be able to get out of it. I had to learn. I had to learn through this. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for learning that. And then the other thing I would say too is that, it says this in Mark 9:49, everyone will be seasoned with fire and every sacrifice will be seasoned with salt. Everybody has problems. Everybody goes through a trial of some sort, but God will season your sacrifice with salt. And I really felt like those years where we decided, like, okay, we are going to just, again, back to focusing on our family, focusing on him, focusing on, homeschooling and doing the order of what he wanted to do. He seasoned it with salt. It was so flavorful those years. Like, they were so good. And I'm so grateful that we were obedient just to do it. And it was amazing. It's really hard to even believe it. And then when you go through these things, there's one other little story I'll share real quick, but so in the process of losing the house too, we had this thing where, so my in-laws are very generous, and they gave us $250 at Thanksgiving and to go Black Friday shopping so we could get some gifts for the kids for Christmas.
From them, yeah.
Yeah, from them,
yep.
Sorry. And I remember we were in the entryway, and all of a sudden there was a knock at the door, and it was the electrical company coming to shut off our power. They were a co-op, so they could do that because we lived north. And he's like, "Do you have any money?" And I'm like, "Well, the only money I have is $250." And it was up in my dresser upstairs. The kids knew exactly what it was for, that it was their Christmas money. And I'll never forget, like, I had, hand that money to the guy because otherwise our power was going to be shut off. And our kids were just like, "Mom, we don't need anything for Christmas. We just want to have a whole day with you and Dad." Mm-hmm. And like, they all were just like different mindsets, and it was, and then it was a crazy story. But literally like 3 days later, I get a phone call from somebody from our church, and there was this man, his name was John Trudeau, and he wanted to bless us with a Christmas. Spent thousands of dollars on gas cards, grocery cards, gifts for my kids. I mean, it was coats, mittens, hats. We needed all of it. It was just unbelievable how generous he was. And I look back at that and I think we went through so many hard things. But the Bible talks about that when you're on your rock foundation, when the storm is over, you're not even fazed. And I look back and I'm like, I don't feel fazed. I feel better. Like, it's because I'm on my rock foundation. I'm doing it the right way now. I don't know. It's just amazing. There just was so many things that God just showed up and did, and lessons we learned, and even for us, our marriage. I mean, who knows where our marriage would be today if he hadn't turned things around and God given us a reset, and Jordan hadn't listened to that voice of reprioritizing things.
So one of the things you said in the video that we started with is how the Lord gave you a promise that he'd restore the years that the locust has eaten. And I know you've talked about, we're not trying to do prosperity. We don't tithe to get.
Yeah.
We just tithe out of obedience and out of trust to the Lord. But as a friend, I've watched this unfold. I've watched this, I've known you guys your whole marriage and even beforehand. So I watched how, when you lost the house, and how you were faithful in the townhouse, and how your kids learned a really good work ethic because, you taught them that. I mean, out of necessity in some ways.
Yeah.
But then watching how the business now has taken off and how God has really blessed you. So talk about how God has restored.
Well, he's restored so much. It's crazy. Like, we have a house again. I mean, a real house, which has been amazing. He's restored us, which I would say is probably the biggest thing. And I mean, because at that time when he was making that decision, there was a lot of people around us in our life that were not moving forward with their marriages and were in bad places. And, when you're separated like that, that's really hard.
I would say there's one other thing too, like where the expectation when she started real estate was to replace her income as a waitress. And so that was, she worked 2 days a week, so it wasn't like a super big amount of money. But she just wanted to get out of waitressing. It's very taxing on the body, and she wanted something to do. And I mean, what God provided for us was so far beyond what she ever asked for, what we expected. So really, he opened the floodgates. He didn't just
it wasn't just
he just didn't sprinkle it. Yeah,
no,
he poured it all over us. So
and the awesome thing is that because of the resources that he's given us, we can pour those resources out to somebody else. And that's what's exciting, is the ability to be a generous giver.
You know what it's like to be on the receiving end.
Oh my
so
goodness,
to be on
yes.
the giving end is so powerful.
It is so powerful. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So we have a lot of leaders that listen to the podcast. What advice do you have for Shepherd Heart leaders who are either trying to figure out how to trust God with their finances, or trying to help people in their congregation or in their groups that they're leading deal with finances? What's your advice for them?
Well, for us, not to be a Dave Ramsey commercial, but we are firm believers in Dave Ramsey. He's what sharpened us at that time. He's what gave us the track to go on.
Yep. If you haven't gone through the course, I highly recommend going through the course.
And maybe can you remember off the top of your head some of the highlights of what you learned? So budgets, tithing, setting things aside, no credit cards.
So it starts off with, getting $1,000 in an emergency fund. So if you get whatever you got to do, if you got to do a garage sale or sell something or sell a couch or whatever, you got to get that $1,000 in there. And then you, of course, start paying off your debt, and you do the snowball
effect. Yep.
And then once you've got your debts paid off, then you're going to get your 3 to 6 months of income saved up for those times when the rug gets pulled out from underneath of you. He has so many tips on, money saving on insurance and grocery shopping and all.
I will tell you, for those who don't know the couponing world, you can coupon and you can do so great at couponing. I'll tell you.
Even nowadays, there's no newspapers where you can cut coupons.
Oh, there's no newspapers.
You print them off on the internet.
Yeah, you can print them off on the internet. You can get them on your phone, and there's websites you can follow to stretch your dollars.
Which is funny because sometimes when people start earning more money, they're not going to try to do all the coupons, but you are. So tell me about that.
Well,
we don't do so many coupons.
I don't do
anymore.
a ton of coupons, but I negotiate on everything.
Right. Yes.
There's room to negotiate.
There's room to negotiate on everything. I shouldn't even say this, but you can even negotiate your pizzas. It's terrible, but you have, and also too, just being mindful of, where is your dollar going, and how can you take your dollar and multiply it?
Yep, for the kingdom.
And exactly, yep, and that's what you just have to be mindful of. I mean, everything I have is really, honestly, it's the Lord's, and it could be, including my husband. I mean, like everything, you have to steward everything. Like everything's. You got to be mindful of those things. And so I would tell people that if they're, trying to figure out if they are not doing this, or if they're not doing budgets, if they're not, managing their finances, don't be ashamed. Just start. Put yourself out there, start the tools to try to learn the tools to figure out how to do it. Because it will change your life in so many ways. And it's a good discipline. It's not bad. You don't have to be humiliated about it. I know we walked through a period of time where, like, even when we were losing our house, we pretty much didn't tell anybody until the day the moving truck was in our driveway. Like, we were that humiliated. We didn't want people to know. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, because if you just don't have the tools to know what to do, how can you be expected to do good with your money? And so that's why.
Well, thank you so much. Did you want to say anything else?
Well, I was just going to say, one thing that we didn't want our kids to follow the same footsteps. So before they graduated, we bought, the Dave Ramsey.
Yep, it was.
And we made them go through it.
In high school.
We also made them go through Love and Respect before they got married.
Yep.
To try to give them the tools to start off, at a different place than where we started off.
Yeah.
You guys have an amazing family, and you're an amazing couple. So again, thank you so much for having this conversation today. And thank you so much for tuning into the Shepherd Heart Leader podcast. We would love to hear from you. Please like and subscribe and share this episode with others. We look forward to hearing from you. Keep leading well.